This is it. It is the final hour. I'm not the Antichrist. I'm not. I promise you. We've come to the final verse of First John in Greek. This has been a long time coming. I started in May. So May, June, July, August, September, about 5 months of a verse a day. My plan is, starting on Friday, to start doing Genesis. And so on Friday, I'm going to do, this is my plan, Lord willing, Genesis 1:1 in Hebrew on Friday, same format. And then on Monday, I will do for patrons the Septuagint of Genesis 1:1. And on Wednesday of next week, I'll do the Latin Vulgate of Genesis 1:1. And then on Friday, Genesis 1:2. And we'll just do that for a little while. I don't know how far to go. I plan to go through Genesis 1 through 3 is the plan right now. Okay, so this week, can you translate this? The final verse. Little children, guard yourselves from idols. And this indicates that the Textus Receptus and other manuscripts have Amen added after it. Now, again, this is why I've come to believe in modern textual criticism, because would somebody take Amen away? Why would anybody take Amen away? No, somebody would not, a copyist would not take Amen away for any particular reason. It makes much more sense that someone, very pious person, would add Amen than that someone would take it away. And this is the consistent tendency. This is what Westcott and Hort discovered, is that consistently Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, of course, we now have papyri that are older than Sinaiticus and Vaticanus, but what Westcott and Hort discovered was that Sinaiticus and Vaticanus consistently had the readings that seemed more original, in the sense that if they were original, you could explain why the majority text, why the medieval text ended up the way it did. In other words, the more difficult reading, Sinaiticus and Vaticanus tended to have what we call the lectio difficile, or the more difficult reading, things that people might be motivated to fix. Whereas actually, I would say that the Byzantine text, the medieval text, the majority text, is actually a much cleaner and nicer text. But you see, this is not an argument for it being more original. This is an argument for it actually being a cleaned up version of what was more original, that the original was a little messier, the original was not as tidy, and that over time, the copyists and the tradition cleaned them up, especially for liturgy, right? I clean up things for liturgy, whatever, so that it's common sense. And this is why it wasn't the manuscripts that convinced me of modern textual criticism. It was common sense. Okay, enough of that. So, by the way, where did this come from? We've been seeing a lot of the same themes over and over again in First John, and then seemingly out of nowhere, the last verse mentions idols. Well, this is the first time idolone has been mentioned in the book of First John. Where did this come from? Where did idols come from? Is this the secret key? Finally, I've waited to the last verse, and here's the secret key. I don't think so. I think we've got the key in earlier chapters where it talks about love in terms of withholding from your neighbor. And so 2:19, those verses, I think, about the group that had left the community, I suspect that those earlier chapters give the key to First John more than this verse. But we have a parting admonition to guard yourself from idols here at the very end. Okay, so not much. It's a short little verse here. Little children. The iota there indicates a diminutive, so little children, not just children. Techna would be children. Technia is little children. Guard, so I believe this is an imperative. It's a command. More on that in a second. Guard yourselves. What kind of a pronoun is this? We'll see on the next slide. Guard yourselves from idols. I would call this a genitive of separation. Stay away from the idols. Okay, so there's a quick translation. Now, some grammar. So this is vocative, right? Little children. And it's a neuter plural alpha. Bingo. The neuter plural alpha could be nominative, could be accusative, could be vocative. Context will tell us. The context seems to indicate vocative, which is the case of address. Little children. Now, let's look at this one. Phulaxite. So let's start at the end and move back. Te is a second person plural, usually active ending. The alpha there is not tried, and so I'm guessing that it's not subjunctive. Now, a xi, a xi is the key to a hidden sigma. So we have a hidden sigma alpha. So sigma alpha, aorist. So aorist, active. What is it though? Well, is there an augment if it's aorist? No augment. No augment. If it were indicative, I would expect an augment. Is there a circumstance where the second person plural active ending looks very similar to the indicative, but it's something else? Yes, there is. It's imperative. So this is aorist active imperative. The second person plural indicative and the second person plural imperative look exactly the same in the present tense, and they look almost exactly the same in the aorist tense. The difference in the aorist tense is no augment. So I can confirm here that in fact this is imperative. Second person plural from phulasso, to guard. By the way, thanks to Anna Geiser for catching a mistake I made yesterday. Of course, very intentional, not. For whatever reason, I read dianoia as diakonia, and it's not diakonia, it's dianoia. Dianoia means mind, and so let me cover up. I have to admit my embarrassment. So and he has given to us a mind in order that we might know the true God. Not he has given us a ministry, diakonia. I don't know. I'm getting old. I would have never made that mistake at 32. Okay, so back to the actual video of the day. So he'auta, have you figured out what kind of a pronoun it is? It is like autos with a he on the front, and that is a reflexive pronoun. So guard yourselves. It's neuter plural alpha. Bingo. Why? Because it's referring back to technia, children, yourselves. So it's a neuter plural subject there. Okay, I think that's it, which brings us to our final, I'm so sad, our final pronunciation. Can you do it? Technia, phulaxite, he'auta, apo, tone, eidolon. And so, finally, my brethren, technia, phulaxite, he'auta, apo, tone, eidolon. And this has been 1 John, chapters 1 through 5 in Greek. See you on Friday with Genesis 1:1 in Hebrew, Deo Volente.